suits and who have glowing laser swords. That's dumb. It's Star Wars. So, don't be kind to yourself in the brainstorming phase. Just because an idea seems stupid, if you build around a stupid idea in the right way, it can be really cool. So, if you can, get a friend in on this, bounce ideas off of them. It's good to have a soundboard. If you haven't got one, put the APB out on Twitter. There's a furry Telegram directory for various different writers groups specifically for whatever genre you're going into. There's fantasy furry, sci-fi furry, adult furry writers. There's all kinds of that. So just Google furry Telegram directory and you can look up what you need and you can find and connect with people who want to write things you are and brainstorm with them. Time for awkward audience participation. Oh, he's already started.
Yeah, there's also the Furry Writers Guild.
Oops.
And the Furry Writers Guild have a Slack. And the Slack has many channels. They have like beta reader channel. They have brainstorming channel. They have for adult chat. I mean, for discussing writing adult, not for adult chat.
Various channels.
Yes.
Like
And it's so and you don't have to be a published author to join any of that stuff.
Yes, and the FWG has a Twitter, the Furry Writers Guild. You can look them up on Twitter, and they've actually started in the last 5 years or so a writers retreat, which is where you get into a room with a bunch of other writers for a week, and you get 2 stories, helped with by instructors and people who you live with for a bit, and by the time that week is up, you'll have written 2 stories, and it's really good. Kyle Gold is one of the instructors. I'm pretty sure most of you are aware of who he is.
Oh, yeah.
And you can look them up at RAWR, spelled RAWR.
Of course.
And if you want to participate in that, that's also a good thing. They do have a tuition and all that, but you can look that up, and if you could swing it, it's very, very good. There's all kinds of writers' workshops, actually. One of the ones that I've been kind of tempted to go to in the dream of dreams is Clarion West, which is a science fiction writers' retreat. But basically, just the main part of this is look into your resources, and you live in the age of the internet where you can talk to someone in Japan inside a second. So, there's someone out there who's into the things you're into. Just, put yourself out there a little bit and try your best to find them. And it can be hard if you're a little bit, not the most social person, but I find group chats kind of help that because you're not, sitting down next to someone this close and saying, hey, read my writing. You're more throwing it out into a pond. But anyway, time for awkward audience participation to see how brainstorming might work. So let's make a story plot right now, off the top of our heads. So, who's the main character?
Dinosaurs.
A dinosaur. Okay, what does a dinosaur do?
He's running for elected office.
A dinosaur running for elected office, okay. What kind of world does a dinosaur running for elected office live in?
A constitutional monarchy.
He lives in a constitutional monarchy, okay. I wasn't expecting to have to get my political science major out for this. But
populated by dinosaurs.
Yeah. A dinosaur constitutional monarchy. Well, wait, how is he running for election in a constitutional monarchy?
Parliament.
Okay, Parliament. He's running for Parliament.
It's kind of like Dinotopia, but a little bit more political.
Yes,
Dinotopia?
And he's campaigning on
okay,
we should
so
have funding
heard that
for meteor
series?
defense.
I'm not sure how.
Okay, wait, that's the main conflict.
It's a book series. I think it's worth checking out.
Yeah, Dinotopia is very good. It's one of the earlier things where you have anthropomorphic talk. Well, there.
I've heard of a movie.
The movie's not that good.
Yeah, I kind of think.
Video game.
Yeah.
Much better.
But anyway, so my cowboy here has given us our main conflict. He is a dinosaur. He's a dinosaur politician running for election in a constitutional monarchy, and the main conflict is he is trying to build funding for meteor defense because he knows a meteor is coming. Yes.
And his secondary conflict, his character arc, is that his arms are too short, and he is trying to cope with that fact.
So so in other words, he's a T-Rex, is what you're saying.
Yes, he's a T-Rex.
He's campaigning.
He hates push-ups.
Now, the problem with it is, I said let's come up with the craziest thing we can think of. This book exists. It's called Farseer by David Robinson, I believe. It's about a dinosaur. It's not about a dinosaur politician, but it's about a dinosaur on a planet full of dinosaurs trying to convince other dinosaurs in their religious order that a meteor is coming, but they don't think a meteor is coming because their god said it wouldn't. But that's the entire book. See? This sounds really dumb. We just came up with that with a room full of furries, and that book exists already. There's no idea too dumb. Be kind to yourself in brainstorming. It's so important.
Yeah, I actually truly believe that there's in the brainstorming phase. There's no, even the dumbest ideas can be. Even the dumbest ideas can be acceptable. Even they can work. They just need fleshing out.
Indeed,
it's all about
No
fleshing
idea is dumb. It's just the execution.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think Rockadoodle is a good example. Like I hear everybody saying that it's kind of a stupid concept. I think maybe they were talking more about how it was all executed.
Yeah, execution is
Like
very
it wasn't executed that well. It could have
Well,
worked.
it's like the recent Fantastic Beasts movie. That's an awesome premise, and it was not great.
You mean Crimes of
So-
Grindelwald?
Crimes of Grindelwald. I mean, they-
Wait, really?
But yeah, like one thing. So I had a quick
The
question.
first
so
one was kind of.
if you
at least
are
the
developing a
value.
premise, how would you change it to be different to market outside of the fandom or inside the fandom, and would you change it at all?
Ah, that's coming up actually.
Okay.
I guess I'll get to that. Anyway, this is again an important thing. I know I'm coughing a little bit, but take what you got, bring it to friends, make like an outline or a table, and one of the main things is to get outside your own head. Because a lot of us writers in general, like there's that old trope about writers being miserable and drinking. But the main thing is to get outside your own head and get that.
Concred?
You should be
I'm
maybe
alright.
drinking more
I
as a
should.
writer.
Is this
I'm not diseased, but you
Okay,
can
yes. Yes.
It's not like straight vodka or anything. It's just water from the
Yeah.
cooler. But anyway,
Yes. Because, I'm pretty hard on my own writing, and one of the main things I've been doing recently is audio production. And I started the YouTube channel where I post all my audios, a couple of months ago. It's already, nearing 3,000 followers.
And what would that one be called?
Oh, it's Sibyllinesounds at youtube.com. I picked a very hard to spell name for some reason. If anyone wants to ask me, I'll explain it later.
Put in
But the main thing
description.
about it is I've been very hard on myself with my writing, and I don't really like what I write. But she was walking with me earlier, and someone came up to me in the dealer's den and was like, "Oh my God, I love your stuff!" And I was like, "Ugh. Ugh, strange apparition. What demon lies do you tell me?"
I bet you felt like you were on coke afterwards.
Yes, I felt like yes, or I don't know, a very gentle weed. But
Might be legal in our next state.
True. But anyway, so the main thing is get out of your own head. You're never as bad as you think you are. And if someone gives you criticism, don't take that as the main thing. Don't take that as an attack or as something they're saying to demean you. Usually, I find people are more positive than I'm expecting. Or, even if they are negative, they're doing it in a way where it is helpful to me and where it matters. So, bring it to friends, talk to people. You're your own worst enemy. Find someone who you connect with and share it with them. Yes.
I was gonna say, I could have that experience with you where it's I've been writing since I was in high school, and I've taken creative writing classes at art school, and was thinking about it, I had thought my writing was consistently terrible, and it was until I had really talked to you, and you're like, oh no, this is actually good. I was like, wait, what?
Yes, get out of
your
your own head.
writing. I was like, no, there's no way mine's good.
It's like, you like my writing? I like your writing. Right, buddies. Anyway, main thing to remember, what story can be told here that can't be told anywhere else? What conflict fits this setting? Which, depending on what creatures you're using in your story, it can change the conflict. If everybody's mice, then, they're probably not out to eat each other. But if one, is a predator, one's a prey, there might be some kind of class divide there or whatever.
or there once was
Or there once was. Oh, and yeah, it goes to world building. Even if the species in your story are, at peace now, is there some point where they weren't? And you kind of want to figure that out as you're going into writing. Also, who are the characters? How does this world and its workings affect them? So, what is your protagonist? With anthropomorphic literature, you don't have to just ask who your character is, you have to ask what they are. And that adds, a whole third dimension. It's like going from Super Mario 3 to Mario 64, and you've never seen 3D graphics before. But, there is that extra dimension that you have to think about. Also, are there humans in this world? Are they above or below these creatures? And what can you do to make this feel like a real place? What can you do to make this feel lived in? Because I find lived in world are the best. One of the things I think I have this book in my bag. I do. I'm a registered evangelist of Discworld. I love Discworld books. And one of the main, he knows. Anyway, and one of the main things I like about this is that Terry Pratchett builds a world and then he just tells stories in it. And I will read anything he writes to take place in this world because it feels lived in, because it feels solid. And having a good solid world is important, particularly for novels. If you're doing short stories, this is slightly less important, but you'd be surprised how much little bits of character you can make into a world you can just squeeze under the floorboards. Just a little mention of how the subway works, Yes.
I would also, however, be careful. If you mention something that is just too interesting, Your readers want to know about that. I was editing a story, and someone mentioned, yeah, we went to the zoo and we got to ride the rhino beetles. And I was like, tell me about the giant beetles! And the guy was like, no, that's not what the story's about.
Also, be very careful because there's the Walter Moore's problem. Walter Moore is the German author who writes the books, the Zimonia books, which aren't super popular in the United States, but I read them because there's animal people in them. But anyway, his problem is he likes exposition about his world too much. I was reading about a story where this blue bear guy goes to Atlantis. I'm like, oh, what kind of Atlantis adventures is he going to have? And Walter Moore spent, I kid you not, 14 pages describing the architecture of Atlantis.
Yeah. Speaking of expositional world building, that's something that's always been an obstacle to me in my writing. It's just trying to find a good balance between moving the story forward and world building.
Now, what I find is a good cure for that is like, I hate saying it this way, but the listicle format, like the way that places like BuzzFeed and Cracked and other websites like that tend to get people to read like literal 10,000 word articles as they break them up into lists, and that makes people more likely to read them. And I actually studied this for my communications degree. Stories do a similar thing. If you want to put in a lot of exposition, break it up with character dialogue and action.
Right.
So
that's what I'm learning to do.
Yes. So, you know, like, exposition, something happens. Exposition, something happens. You don't want it to be exposition, something happens.
And for the purposes of making it feel real, like, that's how people talk about the real world, too.
Yeah.
Like, they don't, when you say, like, I went to New York, you don't say, like, here is 10 minutes of description about what New York is.
Yes, also, yeah, and
You tell it as it comes up.
Yeah, you tell it as it comes up, and you kind of work it into conversation and try conversational dialogue. And, I think I have a slide about this later, but one of the main things that helps you develop that is if you want to write, read as much as you can. And if you're a slow reader, that's fine. I find Audible is a good way to like sneak reading in under the floorboards because I'm a busy person. I tend to have an actual physical book I'm reading, and I also have an audible audiobook I listen to while I walk my dog. And just reading helps you learn what conversational dialogue looks like. It helps you learn. It even helps you with your grammar and punctuation because you can see how other authors are doing it. But because I always go to some author or whatever who's like, oh, I hate reading, but I want to write. And I'm like, that's like a painter saying he doesn't want to see paintings. The great artists look at paintings. The great sculptors look at sculptures. The great writers need to read.
A great artist steals from many sources.
Yes, exactly. And you can steal little ticky-tacky bits from here and there. But anyway, let's move slide. Oh, also, this is just a slide I put in. If you're going to make a world